Welcome into today's deep dive. I actually want to kick things off by offering a true divine blessing for your day and, for your entire week ahead as you tune in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And honestly, you might just need some of that blessed energy today because I want you to start by imagining something for me. Picture trying to coordinate a camping trip, but not just for your family or your friend group,
Right, a little bigger than that.
way bigger. Imagine trying to coordinate a relocation for over 1 million people. We are talking about hundreds of thousands of families, herds of livestock, screaming children, and just heavy, heavy luggage.
And keep in mind, there's no infrastructure.
Exactly. You don't have cell phones. You don't have walkie-talkies. All you have is a deeply harsh, unforgiving desert environment ahead of you. So today we are looking at Numbers chapter 10, using the Holman and NAA study Bibles as our guides. And what we're going to find is just an absolute masterclass in ancient logistics.
It really is staggering when you actually place yourself in that environment. I mean, context is everything for this text.
Yeah.
Because, for nearly a year, the Israelites have been camped at the base of Mount Sinai.
Just totally stationary, right?
Entirely stationary, yeah. This has been this intense period of receiving the law, building their sacred spaces, and basically getting their entire societal structure handed down to them. But now, after all that sitting, the time has finally come to pack up and actually march toward the Promised Land.
Which, if you're reading it casually, it sounds like this triumphant cinematic moment.
Oh, for sure.
But if you think about the physical reality of moving a nation of former slaves through the wilderness, if you don't execute that perfectly, it doesn't result in a triumphant march. It results in a stampede.
Yeah, it's absolute unmitigated chaos.
Exactly.
We tend to visualize biblical events through a very, purely supernatural lens. We picture these people just effortlessly floating along behind a glowing cloud.
Right, like it's easy.
Yeah, but the text forces us to look at something much more grounded. It presents this fascinating tension between soaring divine guidance on one hand and then this strict, grueling military-style organization on the other.
So let's look at how they actually pulled this off, because the very first problem you have to solve when you're dealing with a camp that stretches for miles is communication.
Definitely.
So the very first command God gives Moses in this chapter isn't even about walking. It's about building 2 trumpets. And the instructions are incredibly specific. They must be hammered out of solid silver.
And that material choice is very deliberate, especially when you contrast these hammered silver trumpets with another famous biblical instrument that people might be more familiar with, the shofar.
Oh, right. That's the hollowed-out ram's horn, correct?
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah.
The shofar was organic. It was primarily used for specific, highly sacred, and almost somber moments.
Like what kind of moments?
Well, for instance, it was the instrument used to announce the Day of Atonement, which, just to set a baseline here, was the one day a year the high priest would enter the innermost sanctuary to seek national forgiveness.
Oh, wow. So a very heavy day.
Extremely heavy. The shofar was the sound of deep spiritual weight. But these silver trumpets, on the other hand, while they were also held by the priests, they were designed for highly practical operational communication.
That distinction really changes the image in my head. And the NAA study notes give us the physical dimensions, which are honestly surprising. These weren't massive, unwieldy horns that drug on the ground.
Yeah, not at all.
They were only about 30 centimeters long, so roughly a foot. And we actually know what they look like because they were famously depicted on the Arch of Titus in Rome.
Right, carved in stone alongside the spoils taken from Jerusalem centuries later.
Yeah, so they are these highly portable tactical instruments. But my question is, the physics of it. If you have 1 million people spread out over square miles, with all the ambient noise of a massive camp, how does a 1-foot silver trumpet actually reach everyone?
It's a great mechanical question. And the answer is, it wasn't magic. It relied on a highly disciplined relay system.
Okay, that makes sense.
You have to remember, the camp was organized by tribes with designated leaders, like the heads of the thousands. When the priests, who were standing centrally at the tabernacle, blew these trumpets, the sound wouldn't need to reach the outermost tent perfectly.
It just needed to reach the leadership network.
Exactly. And then they would visually or verbally relay the command down the line.
Yeah.
What's really crucial here is that the trumpets had a specific, structured vocabulary of sound.
Like an acoustic Morse code.
Basically, yes.
The text breaks this down beautifully. So if the priests blow a sustained, smooth note on both trumpets, that is the signal for the entire congregation to drop what they are doing and gather at the entrance to the tent of meeting.
But if they only blow one trumpet, the message changes entirely.
What does that one do?
That single tone means only the leaders are summoned.
Okay, and then there is the alarm blast. The notes describe this as a staccato sound, so a series of sharp, broken, urgent notes.
Which makes sense psychologically.
Right. Think about how human psychology responds to rhythm. A smooth, long tone is gathering, almost calming, but a staccato burst is like a fire alarm. When that alarm sounds, it means one thing. It is time to break camp.
And even then, it isn't a chaotic free-for-all.
No, the first staccato blast means only the tribes camped on the east side move out. Then, the second blast tells the south side to move.
It really is the imposition of divine order onto human reality, because Israel is moving with the very presence of God in their midst. You simply cannot have a chaotic mob representing the divine presence to the surrounding nations.
That's a great point.
The trumpets are the mechanical tool that transforms this massive, unruly crowd into an organized, functional community. And they were used beyond just marching, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the text points out they sounded the alarm when going into battle against an oppressor, serving as a loud physical cry for God's help. And conversely, they were blown in times of joy during appointed festivals to mark sacrifices.
Yes. So they have the trumpets, the communication network is fully online, but an alarm is completely useless without a trigger.
True.
And that trigger finally comes in verse 11, which gives us an incredibly specific timestamp. It is exactly the 20th day of the second month of the second year.
Which is exactly 11 months after they first arrived in the Sinai desert.
Right. So the visible divine cloud lifts from over the tabernacle, the trumpets sound that sharp staccato alarm, and the march actually begins.
And this moment represents a profound literary and historical shift in the biblical narratives. Up until verse 11, the book of Numbers, along with a vast portion of Exodus and Leviticus before it, has been largely static.
Yeah, just a whole lot of sitting at the base of a mountain taking extensive notes.
Exactly. It's been a stationary period of law-giving, counting populations, establishing societal rules. But with the lifting of that cloud and the sounding of those silver trumpets, the text dramatically shifts into a dynamic, forward-moving narrative.
It's a travelogue now.
It becomes a travelogue of a nation on the move, yeah. And this initial departure is presented as an absolute showcase of harmony. Everything works exactly as it was designed to.
I really want to dig into that design because the logistics of this departure just blow my mind. It is a masterclass in project management.
It really is.
If you are standing there watching this happen, the order in which they leave is highly strategic. First up, leading the entire procession is the standard of the camp of Judah, led by a man named Nahshon. They're the vanguard. But here's where the mechanics get brilliant. Right after Judah, two specific groups move out, the Gershonites and the Merarites.
And to set a baseline here, their specific job was to carry the structural pieces of the tabernacle.
And we should emphasize the sheer weight we are talking about here, right?
Yeah.
This isn't a pop-up tent.
Oh, not at all. We are talking about massive wooden pillars overlaid with gold, heavy silver bases, layers of thick animal skin coverings, huge linen curtains.
They needed ox carts just to move the structural frame, so they head out second. Then the standard of Reuben follows them. And then, after Reuben, come the Kohathites.
And they had a very different job.
Right, the Kohathites carried the incredibly sacred, highly fragile objects. Think the solid gold lampstand, the incense altars, the ark itself.
And those items couldn't be thrown on a cart. They had to be carried on poles on the shoulders of the priests.
Exactly. When I was reading the NWA notes, the brilliance of this sequencing just hit me. Do you see the logic of who leaves when?
Oh, yeah. It is entirely about preparing the destination.
Yes. It's exactly like a massive modern stadium rock tour.
That's a great analogy.
Right. The heavy rigging crew, the Gershonites, they have to leave the city a day early to physically build the stage in the next town. That way, when the delicate musicians arrive later with the priceless instruments, the Kohathites with the holy objects, the venue is completely ready.
The sacred resting place is already built and waiting.
Nobody is standing around in the blinding desert sun holding a solid gold lampstand while someone else tries to hammer in a massive tent peg.
Yeah, it's a perfect logistical detail that completely prevents chaos.
Yeah.
And completing the formation, after the Kohathites, the standard of Ephraim follows, with the standard of Dan bringing up the rear guard.
Ensuring absolutely no one is left behind in the wilderness.
Exactly. It is a fully insulated, moving city.
It is just amazing to visualize, but, and this is where I think the text gets so incredibly fascinating. Right in the middle of all this high-level divine choreography, the narrative zooms way in.
We get a very grounded moment.
We do. We get this surprisingly tense human conversation happening behind the scenes.
You're referring to Moses and Hobab.
I am. So let me lay out the situation for you. While this massive camp is prepping to move, Moses pulls aside a guy named Hobab. Now, Hobab is a Midianite, the son of Reuel, and he is Moses' in-law. Moses basically begs him to come with them on the journey to act as their eyes in the desert.
And Hobab's initial response is pretty blunt.
Yeah, it's a very firm no thanks, I'm going back to my own land and my own family.
It is a fascinating negotiation to find right at the moment of divine departure.
It really is. And frankly, as I read this, I have to formulate a hypothesis here because Moses' actions feel totally contradictory.
How so?
Well, the text explicitly says they have a literal, visible divine cloud of God's presence leading them by day and a pillar of fire by night.
Right.
Why on earth does Moses need to corner his local in-law and beg him to act as a tour guide? I mean, is Moses just hedging his bets here? Is he trusting God for the big picture but keeping a local guide on the payroll just in case the cloud gets them lost?
It's very easy to read it that way, as a symptom of anxiety or a lack of faith in the divine guidance. But the study notes do a fantastic job of correcting that assumption.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Moses asking for Hobab's help is not a lack of faith. It's actually an incredibly mature demonstration of shared leadership and human responsibility.
But if the cloud knows where to go, why do you need Hobab?
Because the divine cloud provides the macro direction. It tells them when to move, and it shows them generally which direction to head. But divine guidance rarely bypasses human agency.
Ah, I see.
The Midianite desert isn't just a flat sandbox. It is full of treacherous wadis, sharp rocks, hidden springs, microclimates. Hobab possessed invaluable tactical, granular knowledge of that specific environment. He knew how to read the weather patterns of a specific valley. He knew where the predators hunted.
Okay, so it's the difference between having a satellite map that says proceed north for 50 miles and having a local in the passenger seat who says, hey, don't take that mountain pass. It flash floods in the afternoon.
That is the perfect distinction, yes.
Yeah.
Moses recognizes that divine guidance doesn't negate the need for practical, hard-earned human wisdom. It's a partnership.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
God provides the overarching vision and the ultimate destination. But human beings are still required to use their skills, their networks, and their knowledge to navigate the gritty, daily details of survival.
That completely grounds the story for me. Oh, and I also want to quickly address a historical footnote the sources brought up about Hobab's identity, because if you read earlier books, it can be pretty confusing.
Yeah, the names shift around a bit.
Depending on the chapter, Moses' father-in-law is called Reuel, or Jethro, and here we have Hobab, son of Reuel. The notes explain this is likely due to the fluidity of Bronze Age familial terms.
Right. The Hebrew word often translated as father-in-law can really just mean a male relative by marriage.
So it could mean a brother-in-law or just an in-law generally.
It's an important reminder that we are reading an ancient text with a different vocabulary for relationships. We shouldn't get bogged down in making modern family trees fit ancient terms.
Fair enough. But the burning question I had was, did Hobab actually say yes? Because the text in Numbers 10 just sort of leaves the conversation hanging after Moses begs him and promises him a share of their future blessings.
It does leave you wondering.
But the Holman notes provided a really satisfying historical resolution. If you fast forward to the book of Judges, chapter 1, verse 16, it explicitly mentions that the descendants of the Kenite, which is Hobab's specific clan, actually went up and settled with the people of Judah in the wilderness.
Meaning, he was persuaded he didn't go back to his homeland, he tied his fate to Israel.
He did. They got their human guide, which transitions us perfectly to the ultimate guide that was actually physically leading the vanguard out into the sand.
The departure from the mountain itself.
Yes. So with absolutely everything in place. The silver trumpets are forged and tested. The tribes are in their specific order. The heavy tabernacle is loaded onto the carts. The human guide is secured. They finally leave the mountain of the Lord.
It's a massive moment.
And the text says they set out on a 3-day journey to seek a resting place. Now, 3 days can sound a bit abstract to us, but the Holman notes provide a fascinating metric to help us visualize the distance.
What's the metric?
Based on the known travel speeds of ancient Egyptian armies from that exact era, a 3-day march with a massive group would have covered approximately 56 to 72 kilometers.
Wow. That is a significant distance to cover, especially when you consider you're moving a completely newly formed society for the very first time away from the only water and safety they've known for almost a year.
It's a serious hike into the unknown, and leading this massive, miles-long column, even ahead of the vanguard of Judah, is the Ark of the Covenant. And this gives us one of the most poetic, powerful moments in the chapter.
A battle song.
Exactly. It's known as the battle song of the Ark. Whenever the Ark set out to move, Moses would shout, "Arise, O Lord, and let your enemies be scattered, and let those who hate you flee before you." And when it finally rested, he would say, "Return, O Lord, to the many thousands of Israel."
This battle song raises a really crucial point about how the Israelites view the Ark itself. What's fascinating here is that the Ark wasn't just a sacred golden box holding the stone tablets of the law. To the ancient mind, and, as the study notes clarify, it acted as the literal, symbolic throne or the footstool of God. By having it proceed out ahead of the people, keeping a specific distance, it was a profound visual representation of a sovereign king leading his servants into new territory.
So it wasn't just like a magic talisman they carried with them for good luck. It was their king going out ahead as a scout to actively secure the area.
Exactly. And that repetition of the phrase 3 days journey is highly significant context too. It emphasizes that this initial leg of the trip was actually quite a short distance relative to their final goal of Canaan.
Oh, I see.
It underscores Moses' total, unwavering confidence that God would successfully and swiftly bring them to their destination. The phrasing in this section is full of incredible momentum and hope.
It really is. It's the perfect, optimistic launch to a journey that, if you know the rest of the book of Numbers, is going to get very, very complicated in the chapters to come.
That's putting it mildly.
But right here, in chapter 10, the machine is working perfectly. So as we bring this deep dive to a close, let's just sit with the beautiful tension we've uncovered today. You have this perfect, breathtaking harmony of the divine presence, the cloud lifting, the ark leading the way like a king, but it is entirely reliant on gritty human participation.
Right. They still had to physically hammer out the silver trumpets.
They still had to meticulously organize the heavy lifting. Moses, the great prophet, still had to humble himself and ask a local for practical advice.
It is a profound synthesis of heaven and earth, and I think it leaves you with an important, provocative question to consider in your own life today.
I love a good question to end on.
Think about your own goals or the personal journeys you are on right now. How often do you find yourself just standing around, staring at the sky, waiting for a divine cloud to effortlessly move you forward? And in doing so, do you completely forget that you still need to forge your own silver trumpets of discipline? How often do you forget to seek out the hobabs around you, the people with the practical, localized, hard-earned wisdom you desperately need to actually reach your destination?
That is a brilliant thought to chew on as you navigate your week. We cannot just wait for the cloud. We have to pack the tents, we have to blow the trumpets, and we have to start walking. Thank you all so much for joining us on this deep dive into Numbers 10.
It's been a great journey.
We hope it brought some vivid, fresh perspective to a truly epic, ancient story. And as you step back out into your own daily journey today, we want to remind you that God blesses all the listeners. Take care, and we will see you on the next deep dive.